Hi, everyone. I wanted to give you guys a bite or a big bite of my presentation that I did at the Yo San Acupuncture Fertility Women's Health conference a few weeks ago. And I was sponsored by Jane, who had me come in and talk about organic marketing for your practice. So I'm very pregnant right now, so I might be a little bit out of breath. So I'm sorry about that. I want to emphasize that the future of reproductive health will be shaped by whoever earns women's trust, and that needs to be practitioners like you. We are operating in a time where there is an abundance of information. There are wellness influencers and people that we're competing with that have no licenses. But we are the licensed practitioners. I'm a physician. The people I spoke with a few weekends ago are acupuncturists. And so we do have a higher standard about what we can claim online. And so I'm going to talk about the ethics of that and why we are held at a higher standard. And yet we have to communicate and sift through all of the misinformation that's out there in order to earn trust with our potential patients. So if there's anyone that needs to be earning that trust, it has to be you. I'll talk a lot about today how to do that in an organic way. I do want to disclose that I am a Jane ambassador, so I do receive compensation, but it's only to share my real life experience with Jane products in our clinics. My story. So I started at UCSF. Well, that's where I was in academic medicine. I was a women's health fellow and I just love taking care of women, but I was unwell. I had reached the pinnacle of what I thought was my dream life. I was working at an academic institution, working with women, and I have never been so unhealthy. So I actually left and I started my own concierge practice in the Bay Area. And since then, I have spent zero on marketing ad dollars. Everything I ever did was completely organic. And I'm going to talk to you today about how I built my brand through social media, website, events, in-person events, and becoming an authority in your space, which I think is really important right now. As I said, I was trained at UCLA and UCSF. I completed family and community medicine training, and I have my master's in health policy. I am a physician, consultant, aesthetic provider, and I'm a medical director for several practices across California and estheticians. I I oversee a ton of nurses and we do trainings, events, brand partnerships. And again, I built all of this through organic channels, which I want to talk to you about. If you can please follow me, these are my handles. This is Dr. C Method. This is our software that we've developed specifically to help med spas and medical practices manage their compliance. And my other account is my skincare, lifestyle, also some medical directorship. A little bit inside my clinical network. So I do oversee nurses, estheticians, all types of nurses, so RNs, NPs, PAs. And really, our brand kind of grew out of medical directorship, but we kind of extended into helping with back end operations, events, in person, networking, women's health. And yeah, I'll give you a little bit background as I go, kind of what my marketing strategies have been. My story, I think a huge part of that is that I showed up every day online. If I didn't know everything about a certain filler or Botox, it didn't matter. I would go on and I would talk about the one thing I learned about it that day. So I was not an expert, but I showed up every day anyways. And I think that's a very necessary component of building a authentic following. Why is it so important that providers even use their voice online? I think we're in a paradigm shift, at least from when I started medical training. We really pushed hormonal contraception. We really pushed having some type of family plan and hormones, using hormones to control our cycles was really kind of the mainstream way of how we did that. However, Gen Z and millennials to some extent, they they really avoid hormones. And you can see this from the things that they follow online, the paradigm of the kind of content that they support. They also are very they question toxins in their environment, which I think is amazing. So if you just look at some research, social media content about birth control, and they're using TikTok in this example, shows more than half of videos explicitly reject hormonal birth control, and actually roughly 34% express distrust in healthcare professionals. So not only are professionals like me having to show up online to establish ourselves, but we're also working against a public distrust in healthcare. Um, and we're also having to talk about unfounded claims that are out there around fertility, pregnancy, menopause. There's a lot of things out there because people want this information. And I think traditional healthcare has, by and large, failed a lot of us. I mean, I left academics for a reason. I don't think it's the whole piece of the pie when we really take care of women. And so not only do we have to assert evidence in an ethical way, but we're also working against people that may not believe our intentions. So that's also why we need to be more relatable when we show up online, and we really need to talk about our science and our experiences, which I'm going to talk about. This is to reiterate that the mistrust of healthcare professionals particularly suffered after COVID. Even when they think we're intelligent, they don't think that we're good communicators. And I actually think that a lot of us are not great communicators. So let's talk about how to communicate better online. Today, we'll be talking about three main areas of how we can establish trust in an organic, ethical way online. One, we want to use authority to our advantage and establishing authority. I'm going to talk about all of the ways. Number two, we want to find alignment. How do we relate and find that audience that we actually want to serve that would be drawn to the way that we practice? Number three is we want to provide an amazing infrastructure. Once we get those patients into our clinic, that is just a part of the story. We have to deliver on the care, the infrastructure, the operations to get them coming back again and again to receive help. This is a little graphic that I made that just shows all of the things that go into public trust and earning public trust as a licensed provider in today's world. We're going to talk about each of these in a little bit more depth. I want to emphasize that no matter where you are in your cycle of acquiring new patients, it's important that you think about maybe limiting it to two channels. What do I mean by this? So everyone focuses on the social media platforms, which is totally fine. Those are really good drivers of potential new patients, also providing content and education to your existing audience, converting people that may be unsure about coming to see you, marketing different ways of interacting with you to them via courses, downloads, retreats, etc. But a lot of people forget that we're kind of in this ecosystem that we have to optimize as well. We also want to have a strong website. It doesn't have to be the most fancy. Some people have just a basic informational page that has a booking link. We want to also potentially use blogs. So blogs are not out of fashion. They're not out of style. I know mommy blogging was huge in the pandemic, but blogs still form a very important cornerstone of your brand. They can provide a lot of educational materials for people that are just doing Google searches. They also help with your SEO, so how much you rank when someone Googles something, and it can also drive your ranking on ChatGPT as well. It's important to mention that using platforms and using social media platforms and using the captions in those social media posts to really provide a lot of education and content also drives your SEO and ChatGPT because all of that is like put onto the World Wide Web and that's what it draws from. So some people, they may not even want to really lean in on like a YouTube channel, but they do want to provide educational blogs. So blogs are really good if you have sort of some niche content or you're an expert in some area that you feel like there's not a lot of really good content out there, or you just want people to be able to be on your website and to get some helpful information. So if, say you're in aesthetics, Blogs would be great for commenting on an event that happened, like the Oscars, who had the best Botox or work done. You could write blog posts about that. You could also just write 10 basic blog posts about something that's very important in your industry for your patients. Maybe the top 10 things that patients ask when they come in, or the top 10 things you wish every patient would know when they came in, just like how to prepare for their lip filler appointment, the do's and don'ts after getting facial filler, or how to best prep your skin for a laser the 1 week prior. Those are all really good examples of blogs that you can create, and they will drive your traffic to your site. One little option that I like to do is when I write a blog, I also create a LinkedIn post with that blog. So either a section of the blog or if I can fit the whole blog into a post. And that is a really good way of sort of establishing your authority in SEO. I'm going to talk about events and networking as well, because I think this is often overlooked. A lot of people come to me and they're like, I know I should be posting every day on Instagram, and I want to pay money for ads. And I'm like, why do you want to push ads on people when one, your website isn't fully built out and you haven't been to enough events in your area? People don't really know about your business. So if you're going to choose, I would say choose two. Events and networking is something that I've always used and has always helped me to convert and get new patients, new clients. I usually There was a time where I was going to like an event a week, but that's because I really like it. But I would say at least once a quarter, go to an event, a trade show, a local maybe business meeting, or they have Chamber of Commerce's, anything like that. And when you go, I want you to bring your business card, and I actually want you to talk about like what you do. Ask people there what they do and refer people to them, or kind of get a good sense of who the businesses are in your area or your niche, your industry. So even if you did once a quarter events and networking, and then you built out one of these channels, I think that's a really good start. So a few weeks ago when I was talking at the conference, there was a lot of providers there that had their practices for 15 years, but they were still on the hunt for how to get new patients. And some of them had some social media, but they had a good website. They had a really good patient following that goes, that they already go and see them because they had built that up over 15 years and using word of mouth. And for them, I'd say, well, who are we marketing to? Who do you want to get in front of? So a lot of the providers from a few weekends ago, they wanted to get more into the fertility space for women. And so I'd say women who are concerned with their fertility, that would be ideal customers for you. They're probably hanging out on Instagram, maybe TikTok. So I would say let's take Instagram for example. Let's do some posts every week, be consistent because that's what the algorithm likes, talking about something in your niche. Uh, how do you treat fertility in your clinic? What evidence is there for Chinese medicine? What is a testimonial of someone that's been successful and gotten pregnant? Those are all really, really good content ideas that you can start posting on your Instagram. Um, and then go to some events, go to some networking. If you're motivated to write just like 10 blogs and upload those every year, that can be really helpful. Just something about fertility and whatever your specialty or scope is. Once people engage and connect with you, you also want to give them a very easy, frictionless way to book. So what that means is your booking link to book an appointment or book a discovery call, telemedicine, consultation, anything like that, whatever your top of funnel is to get people in, you want to make that on every single post. You want that to be a call to action on every single post, video, caption, whatever you're doing, so that you can start to actually create this sales channel where they come in. The other thing I wanted to say is that think about your ideal customer and where they hang out. So YouTube is going to be people that probably want more like long form informational content. It is a little bit, I think, has an edge over Instagram and TikTok because you can put out something long form educational. It tends to be evergreen. People still find me because of my YouTube videos. It's not something you have to be putting out every single day like some of these other platforms. So you can do a little bit more of a deep dive. which I think as a licensed professional, we are a little bit better at that than kind of the entertaining reels. So say you're in pain management, you're a chiropractor and pain management is your thing. Use YouTube to post a few times a year a series of videos on like managing back pain, managing an ankle sprain, or something that you see commonly in your practice that you can establish yourself as the expert on. Pinterest is also great. Pinterest is probably things that are more creative, more product based. Facebook is going to be your older demographic, probably your Gen X, your boomers. LinkedIn is going to be that professional network. It's also going to be where you can establish yourself as an authority in your space. So for me, I sell products to nurses and doctors. So I tend to use LinkedIn a lot. I want to be seen as kind of the go-to in my space. Reddit can be really good for sort of that organic marketing. Tends to be a younger age group, probably under 40, 45. So think about where your demographic hangs out. This is going to be Gen Z and Gen Alpha, and Instagram is definitely going to be more millennial Gen X. And that's why you need to be a little bit more curated when you're thinking about what platforms and channels you want to focus on. All right, authority. How do we establish authority? I want to go through what authority is. It's basically how qualified are you to speak on the topic that you're speaking on. So I randomly found this woman online. She is an Ayurvedic practitioner, and let's go through her authority, how she establishes her authority. So one, does she have her credentials listed? Yeah, it looks like she has author, doctor of Oriental medicine, Ayurvedic practitioner, and speaker. Okay, awesome. So we know she, assuming that this is all real, which you can go on and check, but assuming that that's all real, she kind of just lays it out very first thing. Storytelling. How does she establish her authority through storytelling? So you can't see these videos, but if you click on them, she just talks about her experiences that she's been having on a retreat that she went to. She's actually not even talking about anything patient related. She's just talking about her own kind of aha moments. So this actually does establish a lot of authority in your space because people can kind of see how you think. They also see that you're a real person, you're attending trainings, you're engaged, you're deeply steeped in sort of your discipline. And so even basic storytelling about just like, hey guys, I'm at a conference and this is what I'm learning today. I'm excited to show you more behind the scenes. Even things like that really can establish you as someone who invests in their craft and they're constantly learning and establishes authority. Education. If you click on her LinkedIn, she actually has online courses. She has free intros to her programs, summits, tons of resources. So she is killing it in the education category. So you want to be sure that, a lot of people are just practitioners. You can book an appointment, but I would say if you're really trying to move towards building a brand, have like a free download, have like a series of videos that on YouTube that you can link to here. Like have some other way for people to engage with your brand that provides some education that boosts your authority without having to do anything. Testimonials. This is probably one of the most important things because we want to hear from real world people. A few weeks ago, when I was at that conference, I remember speaking to my acupuncture doctor who said that when she was building up her practice about 13 years ago, she mainly just posted testimonials on her website of women that got pregnant from her acupuncture because she focuses on perinatal, prenatal acupuncture. And she said that was one of the biggest drivers of her growth. So if you focus on a particular outcome, say fertility, like getting pregnant, those are really those testimonials that you want to put. And in person and digital, how do we establish our authority? So this woman, Claudia, I went through her profile and I saw that she speaks at a lot of events. That's a great way of establishing our authority. Something that worked for me too is before I became a speaker and got paid for it, I actually would host my own events. So sometimes they were 30 people, sometimes they were 150 people. I've been doing it for almost 5 years now, but that gave me the practice of speaking. I hired a coach to help me speak, so I really wanted to double down on it. But get practice doing that. If that's something that you have an aspiration to do, I know a lot of people, especially in the health space, they do want to be a speaker. You can host your own events. I promise you. It's a good kind of channel into being a public speaker. And you also want to post ones online. So whether you do just talking to the camera on Instagram, whether you do YouTube videos, um, this is a very easy way to establish your authority. Although I would say most people really struggle with this, and you're not alone if you feel like you cannot talk on camera. Ethical. Let's talk about what makes her ethical. Let's talk about in general what makes a practitioner ethical online, and then we'll get into the her in particular. So, what you do want to do is you want to share evidence-based studies on your page, or you want to share where you're getting the recommendations to make this recommendation or protocol that you're talking about. You always want to mind your language. You never want to say this cures cancer or X cures Y. You always want to kind of hedge your bet because you can't guarantee outcomes and you might get in trouble for doing that. So research suggests X may help with Y. You always want to clearly state your license and credentials on your socials, website, whatever it is, or you can even say it in the beginning of your videos like, hey guys, I'm Dr. C. I'm a board certified physician. And obviously, you want to stay in your scope of practice. If you discuss devices or herbs, you can cite what regulatory guidelines you are following. So when I prepared for this, I kind of did a deep dive into who regulates Chinese medicine and herbs. And there's not one body, but you as a practitioner can sort of decide to what degree you are evaluating these and why. And I think that's really important to just state like, I use only GMP certified. I follow American Herbalist Guild. This is directly from their guidelines. Some people get really into like just working with one or two lines because they know that their manufacturing process is right, is good, that they're getting it from really quality ingredients. And so I think that that's all really important to convey to your following. You always want to state your disclosures. So when I started this talk, I talked about, I work with Jane. So you can say even for product, I reserve this herbal supplement for free and for review purposes. Always show your testimonials that reflect a typical result. So my acupuncturist was able to share the patients that did get pregnant because she gets a lot of people pregnant. It's not a one-off thing. It's kind of a good share. I don't know what her percentage is, but she's been doing it a very long time. And so if that's something in your practice that you have a very typical result, it's not a rare thing, then that is an ethical way to portray a typical outcome. You always want to put a disclaimer at the bottom that it is not a typical outcome or state exactly what to expect as a typical outcome. That's why I think you see a lot of disclaimers at the bottom of photos that say not a typical outcome. It's just because they don't want anyone to ever think that that's guaranteed. And I'll talk about why, how that can get you into trouble. You always want to have a photo consent from the patient that it's okay to share their images. Avoid any fear-based marketing. Like if you don't do X, you definitely will get Y. It reminds me of Mean Girls when he's like, if you don't use condoms, you will get chlamydia. Technically, if he was a provider online, that would not be an ethical way of marketing. Be careful about implying anything that acupuncture or another modality replaces conventional care. So I gave this talk to practitioners who are on the holistic side, and I just caution them that you always want to emphasize that this is an option and it may help, but it's not going to replace your traditional medicine. Post education rather than actually giving advice for how to treat specific diagnoses. This is really important. The things you don't want to do are basically the opposite of what I told you to do. So don't claim to cure anything, don't exaggerate effects, do not make claims outside your scope. If you want to see an example of really poor, unethical marketing, just watch YouTube for a day. Those ads that come up that show like complete resolution of a nail fungus with just using a dropper, I'm like, yeah, right. I want to see the actual evidence on that. But they don't have any licensed professionals or any medical board that's really regulating them, unfortunately. So they can go out and make those claims, but we can't. You don't want to give anything that's vague or overstated, just like these herbs are amazing without any disclosures or explanation or details. Obviously, don't use fear-based marketing, like I said. Do not promote stories of complete cures with non-conventional medicine that can get you in hot water. Do not diagnose online or via DMs. Make sure you're encouraging patients to book with you and do a complete patient intake. And do not share any private data without written consent. So, why is this important? Well, obviously, it depends on where you live, state to state. For example, in aesthetics, only no, sorry, only NPs, PAs, doctors can actually formulate treatment plans. So we don't want to have an RN on social media talking about diagnosing and giving a treatment plan because technically that's out of her scope. So it depends on what your license says for your specific state, country, and board. So in the US, we go by your medical board or whatever your licensing board is, your FDA, your FCC, not FTC. Um, so your Federal Communications Commission that regulates marketing online and the things that you say, the kind of the claims that you make. So these all enforce medical claims and any false advertising. For example, for me, if I go online and I discuss, say, a treatment that is not FDA approved, to follow it ethically and to protect myself, I really need to say this treatment is not FDA approved, such as like exosomes. But I can say these are the studies that we have, and this is why I use this in my practice. If you are in the acupuncture board, similarly, you can talk about how acupuncture has been suggested to improve fertility in these studies, and here's why. If you have a malpractice case ever where someone says, I came in and I got this treatment because I really believed it would cure me, or I came in and it actually made my condition worse. No one told me that. There are several things that you would need to protect yourself from. Obviously, your notes, obviously, the experience that they had in clinic. But if you were sued and if there was a case with the medical board, like a complaint, then they would also look at your advertising practices. Like, did this person actually advertise that they could provide a complete cure? Was this false advertising? Were they going against their regulatory body in order to even recommend this as a treatment? What guidelines or protocols are they following? Um, so I wouldn't say that any board is going to be like trolling your socials looking for you to make these false claims. But if you get a bad outcome, they can look at everything, your socials, your website, anything to substantiate the patient's claim. So the state board also will enforce your scope. So they can really check if you are actually acting out of scope in any of your advertisements. Your practice is a big thing. Make sure you're actually treating patients within your scope. And all the documentation will be subpoenaed to actually provide that you're giving evidence-based care. I just did a quick search of the acupuncture board and some of the complaints, and one of them was they were triggered by these like really crazy, grotesque things that were happening. But when they went through, they also actually cited that they had improper documentation, certain gross negligence, and they went through the charting and the marketing as well. When I went through Dr. Claudia Welch's socials, I didn't find any ethical issues with her platform. She didn't make any health claims, in fact, and she just provided information, storytelling, and her own personal experiences. I just wanted to highlight one of our spas that has done really well in marketing in the past year. So this is what I mean by organic. She actually posted consistently. She hired someone to help her record videos, entertaining ones, but also just very organic, kind of talking into the camera ones. They posted 3 times a week with email marketing. After a year of consistent posting, one video went viral actually over the holidays, which is oftentimes when people are on their phones, and you can actually post the same video several times and get different outcomes. Oftentimes posting over holiday or a certain time on the weekends. For me, my followers are all online Monday morning. that is usually a time that things can mostly go viral. So that's just a little side note. So after 1 year of posting, one video went viral over the holiday season, and it gave them 15 new followers a week, 10 new booking inquiries per week, which was phenomenal. Again, it took them years to finally have one thing that went viral. But the good thing is that when that went viral, patients would click on it, learn about what their mission was, what they're really, really good at, which is hyperpigmentation and skin of color. And then they would go back to the Instagram account and see that there's tons and tons of content to choose from and to understand and get to know them. So they were building their brand voice over time. And so as it trailed off, as that momentum trailed off, then the spa put $5 to $10 per day in ads to keep that interest up. And it kept the practice growing. So this is what I mean by investing in a system to consistently put out content on some type of platform and then watching of how your audience responds. And then if you're seeing a conversion or a turnover with a certain video or a certain topic, I want you to double down on that area. And that's how you can create something very organic. And I say that because most people want to open a practice and they want to put money into ads right away. That is a surefire way, almost always, to lose money very quickly without knowing what your audience actually wants. Some examples of what you can do to build authority: go behind the scenes, again, talking about conferences, go IG Live or TikTok Live every week, share different topics, share success stories for your patients, show a day in the life. Like, I'm a cute mom and I'm an acupuncturist. Comment on news stories, anything relevant. I remember there was a reel that was posted that was like about doing something in the rain. It was a friend who posted something about doing something in the rain. And it was like, it took like 5 seconds. It wasn't anything like genius or anything, but because it was raining a ton in Southern California that day, it went viral. And we think it was because it was just because everyone was posting about the rain that day. So you never know like what is going to be relevant and what the algorithm is like, oh, people are posting, they're sharing about this, and they tend to kind of like pick up and share things to people that way. So try to be as relevant as you can and always bring it back to your own like practice or industry or take on it. You can also advertise new services, new team members, even outfits of the day. That's easy. Say you like love something like that you're wearing and fashion is like something fun to you. That adds some like relatability and dimension, which we'll talk about. Even if like you're a coffee lover and you love coffee and you just want to post your coffee every morning, that can be kind of a consistent thread that people like and humanizes you. Let's talk about alignment. Um, I want to mention when I first opened my location, I had all these people coming to me and asking me for a discount. And I was like, how did you hear about me again? And I was grateful for the patients, but I was like, why are all these patients asking me for discounts? And I found out that one of the girls that I had treated, I don't remember if I had given her a discount or something had happened where she kind of told everybody, like, oh, Dr. C is like, she uses like a more affordable product, and so she's like, can give you a discount. And when I found out that it was her, I literally asked her, I was like, can you not refer people to me anymore? Like I'm good on your referrals. So when we ask for referrals, we want good referrals. We want people who they want to come to us for a reason, they can afford us, or if they can't, we have an option like a sliding scale or something like that. But essentially, you want people that kind of match with you in everything, right? In life and romance and friendship. And so, how do we kind of put that signal out there that our authority, but we make it specific to those people that we would really benefit from us? Um, she's one of my favorite influencers. And again, she's really big. You do not need to have thousands and thousands of followers to have a really aligned, authentic audience that sustains your business. But I wanted to talk about how she is creating this community and attracting a certain type of patient because of how aligned her content is. She's in touch with her audience. Let's see. Let's go through how is she in touch with her audience. Well, it looks like she's a fertility doctor. She practices in New York. And she provides a ton of commentary. So she is almost always posting on like Look, Indian Matchmaker, Sperm Donor Edition. She posts about TV shows. She posts about policy changes. She posts about um like different trends that are happening around fertility and women's health. So she's very in touch. She even goes as far as to provide blogs and articles so people can learn more. She's very relevant. She again comments on current events, policy changes, and she stays in scope. She mainly comments on IVF and fertility. That's her jam. She's an REI doctor. Um, is she relatable? I find her extremely relatable. She looks like a girl I would like hang out with, you know? She wears bright colors, she dresses nice, her office is cute. She shows behind the scenes of her walk on the way to work in Manhattan, which I think is so fun because I get to like imagine that I'm with her. Oh, what happened? She's very good at calls to action as well. This means that in all of her stories, she always has a link to engage further. Either read an article, book with me, buy my book. It's like some way to keep engaging. And this is really important, like I said. So if you're a provider and you just want to put book with me on everything, put book with me on everything. She also provides a lot of feedback. So she actually replies and creates videos from comments. Another person who really does feedback well is Oprah. I've been listening to her podcast and watching her podcast on YouTube. And what's different from her show when she did it in the 90s is that she actually will take TikToks and Instagrams that someone created in response to one of her shows, and she'll do a whole show just on like this person's criticism of her show. And I was like, that's really cool because she was never really able to do that maybe like back in the day, but now with how we're so connected, you can actually read someone's feedback on your post and do a whole post about that. And I think people really feel like that makes you in touch with your audience. Um, Engagement, she shows up consistently. She's always creating in like her posts and stories. I'll show you some more examples. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. All right. For example, someone commented they had triplets from a single embryo transfer as a surrogate, and she said, wow, that's so rare. So look how she brings it back to that Bayesian principle where she says that's not a common outcome, that's rare. So she's grounded in science, she's ethical, but she's also very engaging. She's like, I'm so happy it ended up that way. And then she posted a link to a story from CNN about something similar, how that happened. So this is a pretty sophisticated way of engaging her audience, but it just kind of gives you an example of what's possible and how you can continue to engage with the things that people say and do it in a very science-based way. This is a video of her kind of talking about how she had trouble getting pregnant and how she wanted to clean up her environment. And so that's highly relatable. I think a lot of practitioners, I know when I went through training, we were taught never to share our story, never share your own story with the patient. It's about them. However, now that we're in the social media age, it's actually the opposite. People don't want to go to a provider or a doctor without kind of like knowing a little bit about them. Would you say that's true? Because I would. Um, you don't need to overshare online. You can just share, like I said, even your coffee in the morning or how you get your kids ready for school or show your workout, something like how do I get a workout in with a busy clinic schedule? Things like that, showing little relatability, really does humanize your brand. Now we're going to get to our last section, which is booking an appointment. We do so much to get people to come into our clinic to engage with us. And then now we want to make it really easy for them to book. As you have that booking link on all your platforms and you click on it, you want to make sure that they have the least number of clicks and the easiest process to book an appointment with you. It's kind of like when you're like impulsively looking at shoes and you're like, oh my gosh, I love these shoes. They are my size, they're on sale, let me get them. I know for me, if I have to spend more than like 2 or 3 minutes entering, like creating a login, entering my shipping information, entering my credit card, I just won't do it. But if I can log in with Google, Apple Pay, and it's already in my, like I can do it within like 5 clicks, I'm probably going to overspend for that day. So you want to think about that with your patients as well. From the first moment, they're like, maybe I should book a consult with her. And to that, closing that loop of actually booking, that should be really easy, frictionless, as few clicks as possible. I just want to talk about how when I first started, I was concierge. I drove all over the Bay Area. I had my doctor bag, I had paper charts. I didn't know if I was going to create a clinic or what I was doing, but I just knew that I wanted to get out of the institution. I want to do my own thing. So my brand was really built on connectedness. I got to spend an hour with all my patients, warmth, excellent care. They got to have a doctor come to their house and spend quite a while with them. But as I grew to a few hundred patients, I was like, I can't keep up this on my own. I can't text them that I'm a reminder that I'm coming. I can't like text them a just like with their how to schedule an appointment, like booking and scheduling. It takes up so much time. So how do I maintain sort of that brand of connectedness, but at scale as I grew? My solution was Jane. Once I switched over to Jane, it was so easy. Um, you can think of Jane as like another member of your team, which you should. I'm a medical director and a consultant, so I help people set up and grow their practices. When you don't love your EMR, you don't feel like your EMR is a part of your operations team, it means that you should fire them. I have worked with a lot of EMRs as a medical director, and most of them I find cumbersome, not user-friendly, uh, really just time consuming as a provider and a medical director. So that's why I switch all my clinics over to Jane because I can easily navigate it. As a medical director, I can sign charts for everybody. I'm able to get in and easily see everyone's schedule, and patients love it. It provides a lot of automation. They get email reminders, text reminders about their appointments. They get prompts to book. They can get their aftercare. You can even set up your memberships, your email marketing, which I should talk about as well because that's one of the easiest ways to grow your practice. You, um, I mentioned a lot of the benefits of why I have switched almost all of my clinics over to Jane. Um, Also, their onboarding process is the easiest I've ever done. Like, once you launch a practice and you see some of these EMR companies, they require a lot of money, a lot of time to customize your experience. And sure, you can customize it and it's amazing and it works for you with all your different maybe providers or procedures, but that process is so painful and can take months. But Jane literally has videos for every step of the way, and I've never had to contact IT. I think the only time that we've had to was like for our memberships that we were trying to build out, but everything else, like I'm not that tech savvy, but I was able to do a lot of it before my office manager and assistant took over. So again, Jane is such a great companion to making sure that your patient can book easily, chooses their provider, can even choose their treatment if you make that an option, and then close out the visit with like a reminder and aftercare. I would love for you to try Jane because no one that I've ever told to try it hated it, or everyone ended up buying it and is so happy with it. So that you can actually try Jane for a month and just see if you like it. See if how easy it would be to integrate your patients, to merge them over. Try using my code DRC 1 month to give you 1 month free, and you can try it for yourself. Again, infrastructure is so important because we want to make sure we give people consistent experience. So what does that mean? That means your branding does it look, let's look at this girl, Therapy with Guyane. She's a postpartum therapist for women going through motherhood. How's her branding? If you look at her video, I mean, it looks really cute. I like love her colors. Again, guys, if you have a stock photo, if your website is all stock photos, one of the first things you should do is take Like do a photo shoot, okay? And don't just get like a good photo shoot with good lighting, okay? Because that is going to do wonders for your branding. So I really like her branding. It looks cohesive, it conveys trust. I feel like it's all very consistent and it's very feminine and warm. Like it feels like motherhood to me, which I really like. Operations. How easy is it to schedule an appointment? Well, with her, it was pretty easy. I think I went to like one page that said error, and then I was able to go back and like click on the consultation. So it was pretty easy to schedule an appointment just from her social media landing page. Is it compliant? Is it above board? I actually don't know. So hopefully Calendly, I actually don't know if Calendly is HIPAA compliant. I know Jane is, but for a lot of booking systems or even calendar booking systems, I don't know how secure they are. So you want to choose something that is going to protect your patient's data. Privacy, you're going to make sure that it's safe and their info won't be sold. Consistency, setting up appointment reminders, following up. So making sure that there's a way for your patients to, like, if they want to send a message to the provider or they want to look at their lab results or they want to look at something, they want to feel that they can consistently access you and your clinic. Is it patient-centered? Oh my gosh, how many times have I had to create a doctor's appointment and going into the portal was like so annoying and it was didn't even do what you needed it to do. So it has to be patient-centered, so that people aren't frustrated by your system. Connectivity. You also want to make sure you can send your email marketing and access your provider. You can check like, oh, if I have a membership, when is my next appointment? How much do I have of this? What does my membership include? So helping your patients stay connected is really important. It's not just about acquiring a new patient, it's about making contact with them, bringing them in easily, the right patient that knows what you do best, what your brand is, schedule the appointment, sees you, gets an aftercare summary. They come in for a return visit because they got that appointment reminder. They knew the plan when they left. They weren't confused by it. How many times does that happen? On their return visit, they also stayed connected because their email was put into the email newsletter. They learned about promotions, they learned about the memberships, and they told their friend. Their friend came in and also provided referrals for you. So patients just stay in the life cycle. What we don't want is for patients to come one time, have a great experience, and then leave and because they never heard from you again. That is probably the number one thing that I see in most clinics that I help is that they have a great customer experience, they have a great patient experience, they're great clinicians, but they're not servicing their existing patients well because there's no email marketing, there's no memberships, there's no ongoing benefits, there's no rewards, there's no events to bring people in and give them some community. So that is all part of kind of like your infrastructure, how you help take care of people. And so if you learn nothing from this talk, remember Jane, and also email marketing and memberships is once you get those patients, that's one of the best ways to retain them. And the patients are happier. They have better outcomes, better experiences. So again, these are the main three aspects that I talked about today: authority, alignment, and infrastructure. Do an audit of your clinic and just see which of these three areas do I want to focus on in the next quarter, and what are two things that I can do from this talk. The future of reproductive health will be shaped by whoever earns women's trust, and that needs to be practitioners like you. I hope you learned something today to share online and in, your niche to attract patients to you, because we really need to distinguish ourselves from those influencers, celebrities. We hold ourselves to a higher standard, trainings, and yeah, you need to be heard in this voice, in this kind of ecosystem of a lot of information, but there is a way for you to show up online and to be the authority in your space. And these are my references. So thank you so much. Please follow me, and also please check out Jane for your practice. You can always send me a DM, or my email is in the YouTube comments. Thanks, guys.